Discover hope and healing from the other side. Welcome to Messages of Hope with Suzanne Giesemann.
Listen, they're all around you, close as a thought or a memory. Messages of hope. Messages of...
Hello, everybody. I am so excited about the program, the opportunity that I'm going to introduce to all of you today. The program today is called Mediumship for the Masses. It's a win-win program that our guest Sally Hawk is going to tell you all about, and I'm excited to dive into that. But first, I also am excited to tell you I'm going to England to teach my personal Mediumship Plus class. We just announced it publicly yesterday, and the response has been phenomenal. I was a little bit concerned because I already booked the venue where we're going to be holding this in downtown London, and really just trusted spirit when they said, don't worry, you will have a good response. And it's been phenomenal. I just have the most beautiful community, as we say, across the pond, which is not just the UK, but throughout Europe. And I hope that any of you who follow my work, when you hear about this, know that I welcome you to join me in London, October 14th and 15th for a class that people say is transformational. Details about that can be found right on my homepage at SuzanneGiesemann.com. Just scroll down a little to the featured events and click that thumbnail. All right, so that's my little announcement at the beginning. But now back to what am I talking about? Mediumship for the masses. Let me bring in my guest, Sally Hawk, to tell you all about it. Hi, Sally, and welcome to the show. Well, so Sally, let's see, where do we begin? You have a brand new program, and I say you because you really are the birthing mother of this program. I mean, the brainchild. It was. I want to say the inspiration, but I know you'll give credit to Spirit.
Absolutely.
For a program that truly is out to bring mediumship to anybody in the world. And so, why don't you just tell us about it from wherever you want to start?
Sure, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So the platform/community is called VerySoul. And VerySoul is was designed to bring mediums to a place where they could practice with other mediums, to help them improve their skills, and to help clients find mediums that they could trust and that they knew had the skills that they needed to have a good mediumship session. I think you know, Suzanne, that the idea for VerySoul didn't come from me. It actually came when I was starting my mediumship journey, about a year into my mediumship journey, and it came to me in an inspired way. And I'm very pleased with that and very grateful for that help.
Well, I want to know what that inspired way was. You know, that's what everybody wants to know. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was about a year into my mediumship journey, and I was doing some very deep work, deep blending work. You know, the kind of classes I'm talking about, where we're learning to really get ourselves out of the way. And I was in a class doing that. And what started to happen was at night, when I was trying to fall asleep, I felt like I was being handed engineering packets. And it was packets of information. And I could not go to sleep until I would get up and write that all down.
I know that feeling.
I knew you would.
Yeah.
And at first I didn't know what it was because it was coming in bits and pieces. It wasn't all coming in order. But that happened for a number of nights in a row. And I kept writing it down and write it down. Then I'd go back to sleep and forget about it. And when I started to discern what was being asked of me, to build a platform that would help fill the gaps in the mediumship world, you know, at first I thought, well, that's crazy. Why would they ask me to do that?
Oh, it's so obvious with your background, but we'll get into that. Yeah.
And then I thought, the second thought I had was, wait, I just retired. Like, I'm retired. I don't want to be in business. And so I started talking with some of my mediumship friends, in particular, one of my great friends, Sarah Deverell, who I know you know.
Yes, I'm going to get to meet her on my Alaska cruise in October and in my London class. So I'm excited.
Yeah, and,
Yeah.
and we just started discussing what it was that they were asking for and started sharing that with some other people, and everybody agreed. It just made so much sense.
If I could
And
interrupt, for those of you who have not studied mediumship, I've taught literally thousands of students now, and the biggest challenge is how do I get to practice? I've practiced with my friends, but I'm not really ready to start giving readings yet. But I need to get that experience under my belt. So that was the gap you're talking
yeah,
about.
exactly, exactly. And in particular, I had just gone through a mentorship with a teacher named Kim Griffin, and Kim, I wasn't doing so well in one of my classes or one of my one-on-ones with her, and she said to me, Sally, you need to stop doing so many practices. You need to get out of so many circles. You need to just go out and start working with clients.
Hmm.
And I thought, okay, well, that's easier said than done. How's
Yes.
that going to happen? How am I going to find those clients? Am I even ready to be with those clients?
Yeah,
And
it is a whole different ballgame when you're with other students who are so supportive and they're always going to be pleasant and they know exactly what to expect versus a client who might be skeptical, who comes with different backgrounds. It's a whole different ballgame.
well, plus the feeling that we all have as mediums, we don't want to let anyone down.
Yep.
We want to do a good job. So I also had that to contend with. But the culmination of those perspectives of what the gaps were in the mediumship world and the inspiration, and then sharing it with friends who pointed out, well, Sally, you have the background to do this. Like, this does make sense given what you've done in the corporate world. It became completely apparent, like I think it did to you at one point in your mediumship life, that I just had to do it. I
Yeah,
had to do it.
it was your new mission. It's like the spirit world said, yeah, you think you're retired, but we have plans for you.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then I started to realize that it's really for me just a different way of being a medium, because I continue to get guidance throughout this work. It's just instead of translating it to a client experience, I'm translating it to a platform that facilitates lots of client experiences and lots of practices.
So we're going to really dive into what this platform is like, how it's good, not just for practicing mediums, but for anybody in the world who's never had a reading or has had readings and wants readings. It's a win-win for both mediums and the clients. And we'll tell you why. It's just, this is the greatest gift I can imagine. And I can't gush enough about it. But I'm just curious. So many times when I get downloads like you're describing, I don't even know who it is giving it to me. I put it in quotes because it's all source expressing through various beings, and it could be angels or guides or loved ones. Did you ever determine that, or like me, did it not even matter?
You know, at the first downloads did not even matter. It was just so clear, and the information was so well constructed, and the details were amazing. I mean, there were details in those instructions like, when you do this, you need to use a random number generator to make sure that we can influence that choice. Things like that. So I stopped even worrying about who it was coming from. Now, since then, when I am doing the work of, trying to solve different problems, and when I ask for help, sometimes I have an inkling who that's coming from based on how it's coming to me, the analogies that are being shown to me.
Nice.
So, for instance, there was a man that I used to work for at a bank, a very senior man who completely changed the way banking was done in making them into storefronts instead of the old-fashioned banks. He is constantly in my head saying, "Sally, you know how to do this.
Oh, I got goosebumps with that. Yeah.
You know how to do this."
Wow.
Yeah.
So just briefly, what is your background and it makes you so perfect for this? Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. There's so many little parts and pieces that it's kind of strange how it's all come together. But I started as an actuary. And for those of you who don't know what an actuary is, I'm a mathematician who forecasts when people are going to die for insurance companies and for pension plans and things like that. So that was kind of one angle of understanding that pathway. That translated for me into a lot of work in doing engineering. And in particular, I'm heavily trained in doing what's called Six Sigma engineering. That's when a process or a company or something is broken.
Oh, yeah.
You analyze it in a certain way to try to get to the root cause of the problem so that you're not just solving a surface level, that you're actually designing to
Which is what you've done. You have designed a program and a platform that has never been done before. This is what has been so intriguing for me. And you have done it so thoroughly, looking at every angle, how it could fail and how to make sure it's successful. You thought ahead about all contingencies. I'm just blown away by the thoroughness, and that background right there makes it clear why, but there's more. So I'm sorry to interrupt you.
There's a little bit more about root cause I want to come back to, root cause analysis, but it's partially because of that work, but it's also because there's I'm getting constant messages about watch out for this, watch out for that. Then I went on to lead large global operations and then large global businesses in the banking world, where I was dealing with, billions of dollars of risks that had to be managed well and managed daily. So that gave me skills to manage large groups of people. So I had, 15, 20,000 people reporting to me around the world, working with different cultures, and just being able to navigate a lot of complexity.
Well, you sure have done. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, what I didn't know at the time was it also ended up giving me a great network of people I could tap into for this work.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Across the veil and here, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, because you have brought in attorneys and business experts and technology, because you're using all new technology for this. I don't know how much we want to dive into that, but it's really not just a matter of, so many of us, we want to hang out a shingle as a medium, and we just build a little website. Yeah. You have not just built a little website. Tell us about what you've put together here and the technology, just a brief overview so people understand what is available through this site.
Okay, so what VerySoul does is it allows mediums to come and practice with other mediums.
Could I stop you a second? Before you do that, okay, what went into it is the question, but why VerySoul? Why is that the name?
Oh, why the name VerySoul? Oh, that's interesting, because the name did not come in the download. That is one thing that actually we spent probably 2 months trying to pick the best name. What did come in the download, though, was the guardrails. Things like, don't build any barriers, remain agnostic in the approach, make this as welcoming to everyone as possible, and trying to keep it very mainstream so that people wouldn't be afraid of what this was. We want people to understand mediums are normal people, and we are doing it for heartfelt reasons. We do what we do for heartfelt reasons. And we wanted the name to encapsulate that in a way that was not off-putting to anyone. And so it just took a while to find that right balance. Found it magically one night after I stopped trying.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
It touches your very soul. That's what it says to me. It could be different things to different people. So what went into putting this together? It's not just throwing together a website that says we'll match you up.
Yeah, there's a lot of mechanics to it. So it's helping mediums practice with other mediums in very efficient ways. So what a lot of people wouldn't know is typically how a medium will get practices is that we'll either go to a class and they'll depend on any practices that happen in those classes, or they'll just go out on Facebook and try to find somebody to practice with. It's just a very inefficient process. So we streamlined all that to have a good calendaring system, to make sure that nobody has to deal with the Zoom links, nobody has to deal with the time changes, things that honestly the rest of the world, other industries had 10, 20 years ago, but the mediumship world did not have this. We had to structure that in a way, though, that worked specifically for the way mediums work, because some mediums have full-time jobs that are not mediumship. Some mediums, do this full-time. Some, there's just all sorts of different variations of how mediums work. So we had to really make it flexible to be able to work for everybody. I
just want to interrupt right here, because I know a lot of my students will be watching this and saying, what? How did I not know about this? And because you've been at this for how long now? Oh, well over a year.
Yeah, about a year and a half.
Year and a half, and we haven't announced it because you wanted to make sure it was running smoothly, everything worked just right. And I didn't want to announce it, didn't want to have you on my show until I trusted that you've met your goal and you're ready to fly now. And what I love is there are no fees for mediums. This is all about let's help you be the best medium you can because the world needs you. And then when clients come to the site, they get a good reading, which is never guaranteed, but we'll talk about what happens if they don't. But meanwhile,
Yeah.
what went into this? We're still on that topic.
Yeah. So part of it was getting the mediums to practice with each other, but then we recognized that they needed the opportunity to have first clients as well. So we created a program for that where we have friends and family of mediums who are sitters. We don't call them, so we call them a starter client volunteer.
Starter clients. I remember you reaching out to me because I'm one of your advisors, saying we're trying to come up with terms for these people, and starter clients is a great
yeah. And so in the starter client program, a medium can try their skills on a client for the first time and feel safe doing it. They're not going to hurt anyone. They're not, they don't have to feel like their reputation will be ruined or anything like that. They have a safe environment to learn to work with the diversity of clients.
And where do you get these starter clients?
So from the mediums refer friends and families, their family members to be able to be starter client volunteers.
So that's done kind of in the back door. You don't just sign up in the front.
No. Yeah,
How many would you say you still have that ongoing, right? That's still part of the training.
Absolutely. I think we have 600 starter clients right now. Yeah. And
isn't that great?
Yeah. And every time the new medium signs up, we get more. So, and it's awesome for the starter clients as well, because they get a lot of amazing readings.
I hear all the people listen. I can always hear a lot of the thoughts that are in the field. And right now people are like, I'll be a starter client. Sign me up, but it doesn't work like that yet, right?
It's not for everybody. Yeah.
So what I love is you have a tiered training process. You come in as a brand new medium, you can do this, but you don't have the practice to say, I'm a professional yet. So you start out at the lowest tier, right? Yes. Doing readings for each other. There's no fee. Yeah. Nobody gets paid. Then you move up to starter clients, which is what we call a safe environment, right? Because they're going to be supportive. They know the medium is new and they know their loved one's okay. So if you don't connect with them, okay, I'll try, I'll have another medium reading. So keep going.
And part of what I didn't say in those first two tiers is every session that's done, every time there's a feedback loop. So there's a formal survey that's done that the medium gets, and it helps them learn and grow, helps them calibrate. Okay, it felt great to me, but it didn't make sense to the client or to my partner. Through that feedback, we can see when a medium appears to be ready for the next stage.
So after, would the number of readings vary with each medium then?
Yes. Yeah. Some mediums come in and they are overskilled for the level that they think they're at. And some mediums, it's the opposite. It's
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just what you would expect. And it's probably an eye opener for both of them, both categories.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
I will tell you that more often than not, I'm urging mediums along and telling them it sure looks like you're ready to move into the starter client program, and they're a little nervous about doing that. So
do the mediums and a reviewer both see the surveys?
Yes.
Yeah. That's so helpful. This is just amazing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And what's interesting about the surveys, before we go on to the rest of the tiers, is that at first, having surveys was actually a deterrent for mediums to join. There were a lot of mediums who were like, wait, I don't want to.
Well, see, that's so good, because we have to face those human side that says, I don't want to know. But if you're not willing to hear how you're doing, then you're not quite ready yet.
Yeah. I don't know if it was because I think it was unusual. It was different. It wasn't like anyone was trying to circumvent the surveys or anything like that. It was just different, and people had to get used to that environment. But I'll tell you what, like once they're in the door and they do a few and they get those surveys, it actually becomes a little addictive. That they love getting those surveys now. They love the feedback, both the positive and the negative. Because
That's good. And you learn to not take it personally, and you just say, okay, so why did they perceive it that way? And then you grow. It's beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. And so then the next tier is the outreach tier. So once they've successfully done the starter client program, they can move into doing some donated sessions with clients who come from the general public.
That is so cool.
And the exchange is with those clients is we tell them these are up and coming mediums who may still be in training, but we see that they have strong skills, and we see that they regularly people can recognize their person on the other side through these mediumship readings.
Now, this is where you're able to give one free reading to the general public through the outreach program, right?
Exactly.
Is it one a year, or and your software does not allow people to sneak in and have me readings all over the place? It's like anybody listening now can have a free reading with VerySoul mediums, and they're kind of new, but they've already been through these other tiers. You trust them, right?
They're really good. They're just blowing people's socks off, really.
Yeah, blowing people's socks off. I love it. So your outreach program helps them now know that these aren't just friends and family. These are people in real need of a reading.
Yes.
I really want it. Go ahead. I'm just excited. I'm blabbing away here.
That's okay. So they come in and they can have their one free reading, and it's typically a 45 to 60-minute experience. And the purpose of that is to make sure that everyone has access. That, even if you can't afford to pay, or if you don't know where to go to find a medium you can trust, you can find them at VerySoul. And that doesn't mean that every single reading goes perfectly. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is these are authentic mediums who have real skills, and they may or may not always be exactly the best instrument for that communication, but 80% of the time they are.
And that's pretty high. That's really awesome. And if they're not, if they just have an off day?
If they have an off day, the medium will typically ask us to offer that client another session.
It's win-win all around. Yeah. So exactly. In the outreach program, do they do surveys as well?
They do. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And then the next level is mediums can graduate to getting paid for their work. And when they do that, they can either take the pay before the session or the pay after the session, whichever they're more comfortable with. They get to charge what they want, and 100% of that compensation goes to them, which is really important. Because
it's unbelievable. So this you are not a nonprofit organization, and yet it's not about profit. So
we are a public benefit corporation, and that allows us to put mission first. And the mission is to get these experiences to 1 million people around the world, and to help the mediums have the kind of community that they want to have that reflects their values in getting there. So it's a pretty amazing community that's developing, and the energy is high, and the positivity is high. And even when something goes wrong, because the technology isn't perfect, sometimes things go wrong, and there's things that we're still working on tweaking. But in general, we're accomplishing the mission, which is very exciting.
And what's really cool is you allow people who come to the website to schedule right through the VerySoul platform with the mediums. So they don't have, it's not just, here's the bio of the medium, now go find their website and negotiate with them. It's all just one-stop mediumship, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's really important. I want to make sure to say this. The mediums are not paying to be on this website.
Oh, that is hugely important.
Yeah, I know there are some websites where you can go to find a trusted medium, but
and those people have paid to be on it. That really surprised me when I saw it. Not all of them, and we're not going to name names, but I can guarantee you with VerySoul, this is the actual process, and it has nothing to do with money. This is coming from the very soul of Sally, its founder, and inspiration, and all of the mediums involved.
And all of the people who are helping with it, because there's so many people, volunteers, workers, mediums, teachers, just so many people.
And so you said you have 600 friends and family doing the what do you call that tier? The starter clients. How many mediums in not yet professional mediums are working their way up right now?
Not yet professional. We have almost 1,000 mediums in total on the platform. And I think we have 50 in the starter client program, and about 40 in the tier above that. Yeah.
How do you accept new mediums into the program? Baby mediums is what I call them.
Well, we ask everyone to have the skill to at least be able to make a purposeful connection.
Yeah.
Once they have that skill, a verifiable purposeful connection. Once they have that skill, then we welcome them into practices. And then we can quickly see through the practice results, through the surveys, how they're progressing, if they're progressing. Every once in a while, if somebody sneaks in that shouldn't be there, then, we have a conversation and we help them.
And you help them. Yeah. It's
Um,
just so from the heart. So I believe you have those mediums that have risen through the ranks to now being professional mediums and charging. And I looked online, and I was so pleased to see that the prices are very affordable. One thing that I teach, and I learned from a gentleman named George Cow, is when you set your price, there are two parameters. It's with compassion for your client and enoughness for you.
Yeah.
And that's what I see when I look at the prices on there. It's not overpriced that's the compassion part for people that need a reading. And then how much do you actually need? Because mediums have expenses.
Absolutely.
So enoughness. Did you go through with, I believe in the early days when I was watching you grow, that the mediums who are professionals still have to donate a reading every now and then?
Yes, the professional mediums who take pay need to donate 2 or 3 readings a month.
Oh, that's so good.
Honestly,
Yeah.
a lot of them donate a lot more than that. So when you come in, to the outreach pool, to the donated sessions, there's a chance that you could potentially get a reading from a professional medium like one.
That's
But
what I remembered, because you may not necessarily get a medium in training. You may get one of those who are now pro, but they're doing their 2 readings a month. But that's the thing, the outreach program, you can't choose the medium, right?
you don't choose the medium. And I actually, I've watched a few clients who have come to me who tried to manipulate that. They heard so-and-so had a great reading with this medium. And so they, tried to find a way to get assigned to that medium. And then it didn't work. They got themselves assigned, but the session wasn't as strong as what they wanted.
Oh,
And
interesting.
I just encourage them, let those choices be made the way they're intended to be made.
That's right. I mean, spirit really plays with us sometimes to say, don't mess with the system, the big system, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're all different instruments. You don't want the trombone to play Beethoven's fifth. You want the piano, right? So we don't know which instrument they want. They know which instrument they want.
Yeah. So you've been going for a year and a half, and I was surprised there aren't really that many on the for pay pages yet. Maybe 6, half a dozen or so.
Yeah,
Is that
yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, we're in the process of bringing on more.
Mhm.
So
But you can see that funnel, right? You have 1,000 baby mediums working their way up, and
Suzanne, they're moving faster than I can make the technology move. That's trying to keep up with the mediums and their progress has actually been our biggest challenge.
I'll bet, because with all those mediums and the readings for friends and family, you have to review the surveys and make sure that they're doing well.
Yeah. Well, and even just, there's some just small technical things, making sure we could take payments, things like that, so it was just sometimes it's just purely technical stuff. We're running as fast as we can to get it all done.
But I've been so honored that each step of the way, or not each step, there are thousands of steps, but some of the major points, you've reached out to me for my input. And for example, here you have your code of ethics. I mean, ethics and integrity is so important in mediumship. We want people to have a good experience anytime you have a reading. And if you go to a platform like VerySoul on the internet, how do you know that you're getting something you can trust? And look at this, a code of ethics. How do your mediums who are working with you, do they just, is there a check in the block? I agree to this. How do you know they've read it and it's really coming from their heart?
Well, there's a couple of things. One, they are all asked to read it a couple of times in signing up for the platform. But we see the indicators around those things in the surveys as well. So we're not just looking for mediums who can technically do the work, because we know that is one of the important things, right? You have to have the skill to be able to bring the evidence through and to bring the messages through. But we need more than that. We need to make sure that people really are operating from an ethical standpoint and not trying to create an unhealthy following, or trying to, I don't know, make clients dependent on them in any way, or things like that.
Or it's not all about the money, et cetera, et cetera. If I could just look, as I just glanced down at this, your code of ethics starts with authenticity, compassion, trust, devotion, keeping an open and inclusive heart, serving with integrity and humility, embracing the importance of evidence. I love this. You know, I'm all about the evidence. Do no harm. That's Suzanne Giesemann's rule number 1 when I teach. Welcome the gift of feedback. I mean, anybody tuning into this for the first time might think this is too good to be true. And it's one of those cases where it's not too good to be true. And I give you and everybody who is part of this so much credit. And it's just spirit-led, isn't it?
Completely. And it's a reflection too, Suzanne, of what I discovered when I came to the mediumship world. So I met so many, and I know you did too. You meet so many hundreds of mediums around the world who are compassionate and thoughtful and kind and caring and in this work for the right reasons. And they're hidden in the back corners, they're hidden all over the world. Very rarely, and this was actually surprising for me coming from a corporate environment, very rarely do you come across a medium who isn't doing it for the right reasons, at least not in the classes, in the circles that I was running in. And that's reflected in this community.
Well, in the Navy, we used to call it command climate, Sally. You could step aboard a ship and you could tell what kind of commanding officer they had by the feel of the ship and the way the crew was. And you and your founders have created a command climate that reflects what you are. So my hat is off to you in that regard. Yeah. And then you had on the website, or I don't know if it's on the website, it's something you sent to me, what clients are saying. So in surveys returned by clients on a score of like stars, 5 stars, 1 star, like on Google, right? Scheduling my session was easy. Almost all 5 stars, 4.96. Now these may be statistics a little out of date, you said, but they're still reflective of truth. Most importantly, I recognize the spirits who came through in my session, 4.5. Yeah. That's outstanding. That's the test of a good reading. Did you leave and say, that was my loved one, right? Would you recommend this medium to others? 4.69. This session was useful to me, 4.6. All the grades are right up there.
Yeah. And one of the things that's really important about that, Suzanne, is, the way the inspiration, the way Spirit asked me to approach this was, they talked about use the potential. And so those scores are reflective of how much potential was actually getting wasted, because mediumship students were spending so much time with other mediums, giving mediums practice readings when they could have been out sharing those skills with clients earlier. It's just an awkward thing to make that transition when you're on your own. And so enabling that has helped bring the power of that and the potential of that to much greater use. And I think that's a really important part of what they wanted.
Yeah. So what's your next step or steps? What are your next steps? What's next?
Yeah, so we are right now, as we've been bringing this platform up, this piece of technology, we've been side by side developing a brand new one that's even more streamlined, that is even more slick in terms of its capabilities, including that mediums will be able to manage it from an app so that they have more on-the-go access to their schedule and the things that they need.
Will that be transparent to users, to people that want a reading? Are you going to transfer the same URL over?
Yeah, it will. The clients won't need to make a switch.
Okay.
Yeah, the clients won't need to make a switch. The mediums will need to make a switch, but we'll make that easy for them. But it'll allow for a lot more customization. So, just little things like sometimes a medium wants to have 5 days notice before reading. Another medium might only want 2 hours notice before reading. We need to be able to build in more customization like that, because what we literally want to do is we want to take all the administrative work out of the process.
Mm.
And we want to really shape this around them. So that new system is partially up and running, and that will be completed in the next few months. And then I have it on good advice from Spirit. But we will quickly shift from about 1,000 mediums. I'm expecting that by year end, we'll be at 10,000 mediums worldwide.
Oh, I got my lip twitch. Yeah. Stand by for that.
We are going to be building this summer in different languages. So we currently support different languages in terms of mediums who can operate in English and German and Spanish. We offer those sessions, but our website is still all in English, and we need to get that translated for it to truly be a global platform.
And you have a neat video of the globe that turns around and shows you have mediums all over the world, which is cool. Although since it's online, it doesn't really matter, does it?
It doesn't matter at all. It doesn't matter at all. All that matters is that it's bringing together this community of mediums who really, I think, are enjoying working together, especially for those who are in far-flung places. Sometimes we'll get a new medium and I'll be like, yay, we got a new country. And then when I meet with that medium, they'll say they don't know anyone else who does this work. Sometimes they don't even use the term medium. They use a different term.
So how do the mediums who are new to VerySoul
Yes.
interact with other mediums on the platform other than a one-on-one reading? Are there any group meetings ever or gatherings?
We want to do more of that. We have a 24/7 chat room that's open.
Okay, that's great.
You're working on the vibrancy of that. Sometimes that works well, and sometimes it just becomes a place where a medium can sit with the energy of that. We've started having more experienced mediums come in and do talks for the group. And we're working on other ways to do more community kinds of things with the mediums. But all those one-on-one practices, they get to know each other. They don't just do a practice. They do a practice and then they share their stories. They bond, they connect, they exchange information, and they stay connected. So
yeah, nice. And your goal, you had a number of readings by a certain date, I remember, was your initial mission.
Yeah, 1 million readings over the next 3 years is our goal. And the numbers work. I'm a mathematician by background. I know the numbers work. I know it's feasible. And I know if we can keep the trajectory that we have going at the speed that it's going, it's very doable. And I think that makes a big difference. Give 1 million people to have this kind of experience and to have their own sense of knowing, not because we tell them it's true, but because they experience it personally.
I love that. This has been my goal from the beginning. When I first wrote the book, The Priest and the Medium, when I found out mediumship was real, before I even knew I was going to be a medium one day. This was early on my journey when my stepdaughter passed, and I was gifted to find a medium who was credible and brought through evidence. I wanted the world to know this is real. And my mission was bring credibility to evidence-based mediumship. And this is what you're doing as well, and spreading it around the world. It's phenomenal.
Absolutely. And there's a number of leaders that I've seen try to do this through Facebook groups. And they do a fantastic job of just making it real, making it human, and keeping people, informed, and keeping people within some boundaries, so we're not, not doing unethical things.
Yeah, you don't benefit financially at all from this. And not that you shouldn't, but I mean, this is the thing. It's one of the very few things in this world that is not about the money. It's coming completely from the heart for reasons that serve the greater good. Fantastic.
It's a mission-based organization, and we are focused on delivering on that mission.
Yeah, well, there are plenty of plenty of those. I shouldn't say that there aren't spiritual groups and church organizations that do that as well, but this is for mediumship.
Yeah.
Just phenomenal and ethically done as well. I just love that. What haven't we covered?
I just want to go back to the last point, I think. So there's a couple of questions that I get regularly. One question is, why aren't you a nonprofit? Why is this set up as a public benefit corporation instead? And I just want to share that we do that so the mediums can get paid. We think the mediums earn the money and the mediums should be able to get paid. We, as a public benefit company, we get to prioritize our mission over profits. And so it was a way for us to accomplish both, for us to be able to really focus on fulfilling that mission, but allow the mediums to get paid for their work. So that's one question that I get regularly. Another question that I get regularly, and this one kind of surprised me. It probably shouldn't have. But when clients have their experience, it's not only fulfilling, but it can also be very confusing for them. And so we just put together some Q&As for the clients after their experience to help them absorb.
You mean because they can't understand, how did that person connect with my loved one?
How could that possibly have been true? I spent some time with a fellow a couple of weeks ago who came as an outreach client, and he did a session and he had a phenomenal session. He's a young man. He had lost his sister as a child, and he told me I could share this story.
Okay.
Lost his sister as a child, and things just were never the same after that. His father recently had a near-death experience, and his father was not the type of person who would ever talk about those kinds of things. That opened this young man up to the possibility of having a session.
Oh,
Came
nice.
to the session, he was completely in awe of what happened, but he could not believe that it could be true.
When your worldview is challenged, you don't know how to process that. I see this all the time.
Exactly. And so he came to me and he said, "You guys must have looked me up. You had my email address. You must have looked me up, right? Like, tell me that you looked me up." And so we had a long conversation because I wanted to understand from the client's point of view too, but I just had to help him, understand how mediums do what they do, the kinds of experiences we all have. Like, I didn't become a medium because I knew this from birth. I had some accidental experiences that helped me understand that this is accessible and this is possible.
Yeah.
Anyways, we had a great conversation, and he taught me and I taught him, and I think he walked away feeling a lot better about his knowing.
It can be very upsetting for a medium when somebody says, "You look me up," and we wouldn't do that because our ethics are strong.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's a compliment because it shows that you brought through information that they just can't figure it out. And it's our task as mediums to say, it's because they're right here. They are still alive. They still exist, just in a different state. And that is the beauty of mediumship, to show that love never dies.
Yeah.
So
It's
I
just,
salute you for that.
it's the
Wow.
opposite I tell my husband it's the opposite of his selective hearing, right? So we have that conversation that a lot of people have, right? Why can't you hear me when I've asked you for something? He's got a certain kind of selective hearing. I've got
I've heard that said in this household as well. Oh, Sally, give me just a second. I want to share something with people. Don't go away because I want to come back to you here. But we're talking about evidence. And one thing I rarely talk about here in my podcast, but I want to make sure everybody knows, is that every month I have what's called the Monthly Connection webinar. And I share the latest evidence that has come through in my readings. And I have some knock your socks off from this past month that I love to share, and the latest teaching and inspiration from Spirit. And that's a community that gathers with me monthly. For more information about that, next one's March 14th. I hope you can join me. Just check out the information on my website, and many opportunities coming up in 2023 to meet me in person. A cruise to Alaska, I'm going to London, the Omega Institute in New York, Reno, Nevada, to teach classes and teach all of us that it is possible for anybody, as Sally knows, to connect across the veil, because we're doing it soul to soul. And you are a soul in a human body. You listening and watching right now, not just Sally and me. this is an ability that can be learned. Trust me, I did not see spirits my whole life. And now I sit down and using the tools that I love to teach people, you make a shift in consciousness and here they are. So Sally, parting words from you, whatever you'd like to share.
I want to say to you that you helped me have that first experience. It was in your class, 2 months into your class, that I had my first purposeful experience.
I don't think I was aware of that. That's an honor. Yeah.
Which is quite the feat given my analytic mind.
I'll bet. I know.
But beyond that, I really want to say to all the clients, come see us, come give it a shot, have an experience. We're not here to tell you what to believe or anything like that. And to all of the people who are helping bring VerySoul to life, all the people who are coaching, all the people who are giving readings, all the people who are doing technology, providing support, such a great group effort. And this thing is only at the very beginning.
That's what's so exciting. I know I have said this multiple times throughout the program, but I cannot emphasize enough the integrity with which you've done this, the thoroughness, and it's so clear that it is spirit inspired. And I know you'll agree with me on this because of the way it's flowed, right? It's just, I'm sure you had little bumps along the way, but when you hit a wall, that's a sign that you're not tuning in. And you all have just had so many beautiful experiences with this. And it's clearly a sign of the web of connections that I talk about with the Awakened Way teachings, that we're part of one big web. And those in the spirit world want to be heard. They want you all to know we are right here. And VerySoul is a beautiful platform and community that will help people come to know this. 1 million readings will be done through VerySoul within the next 3 years. It's tremendous. Thank you, Sally, so much. You and the entire VerySoul team.
Thank you, Suzanne.
You're welcome. Wow. Did you have any idea anything like that existed out there? It's phenomenal. And I'm so honored to have been asked to be one of the advisors. So happy that the time has come to announce it and share it with the world. Please share this video and the podcast with friends, because there's a reading, one free one, waiting for you. And then from there on, if mediumship speaks to your heart, if you connect with your loved ones, a beautiful platform with trusted mediums. And for those of you who have been students of mine, students of any reputable medium, now you know a way to find ways to get good practice in. So hats off to VerySoul and Sally Hawk. Thank you all so much for joining us. We have exciting guests coming up. And so I'll see you right back here at the next episode. Take care.